Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Pitch Room Africa. Today, we are actually joined by the CEO and founder of Salespat. So there's a lot of really cool things that I'd love to talk about this guy. But as always, because this is the Pitch Room Africa, we're going to focus on the really difficult part of his journey. We're going to explore what it really takes for him to have built what the many businesses he's built and how he's been able to succeed throughout. Welcome, Victor. How are you feeling? And welcome to the Pitch Room Africa.
Hi, good morning, City. It's really good to be here with you. Amazing work you're doing at the pitch room, and it's good to be here with you to have these deep conversations. Definitely.
So here's a question that I want to ask. I always wanted to ask you this question, right? Why sales? What happened? What gets you excited about sales?
So I didn't always want to do sales, to be honest. I didn't launch out years ago to do sales, but sales was critical to why my first two businesses failed. So I realized that, if I couldn't sell, business was not gonna do well. So my first business was, I think, 2008 thereabout. It failed in 2 months. The second one failed again the same year. And basically, I had products, and I wasn't bold enough to sell. I didn't want to do anything research and all that really the way I should do, to create a product in itself. So I realized that the market or sales part of things were missing. Of course, I outgrew that phase. To yesterday, I had a number of businesses that are attached to my name today. But I also, sometime 2018, when I went to the FinTech, we were trying to build across the whole country, Nigeria. Of course, built that brand to where we had about 180,000 customers in Nigeria, and I was the head of marketing and sales stroke operations at the time. But I realized that we had to train people that literally were not necessarily salespeople to come and sell, because salespeople were really scarce, I would have actually even sell, there's a between someone saying I'm a salesperson and someone actually knowing how to sell and close deals. So that was really lacking, and I just felt, what, if I have this problem and many of the other friends of mine are having this problem of sales, personnel, let us just create an entity that can go for talent trainings and technologies around sales. So that was how I decided to do sales more. Yeah.
So let's go back. You mentioned some really
Yeah.
some things that we're going to touch into. But at first, let's just centralize the conversation around what you're doing now. So you're building Salespat and you're building a few more businesses. Tell us, the African economy today is very hard. As well, it's not only the African economy, the global economy is very hard. Just a couple of weeks ago, the UK announced that it has officially gone into recession. And this is even 10 times harder for a lot of people, for a lot of countries in Africa, Nigeria being one of those things. How easy is sales these days?
I mean, I'll be honest to say that, business has never been tougher, in most part of Africa until now. Specifically Nigeria, it's quite more difficult because you are fighting about almost close to about 28 to 30% inflation. Within the last 1 year, things have literally almost 2x or 3x their normal prices. So you're talking about cost of energy. You've moved from literally buying a liter of oil for 300, for even less than 300 to buying a 600 now, and if you're using diesel, like you're in for a lot, and you don't have a lot of power, you have maybe just 2 or 3 hours power. And you and I know that when it comes to tech, when it comes to manufacturing, or even FMCG, whatever industry, power is a very critical one, right? So cost of things have really increased for time, and it's really difficult for businesses, to, let's say, keep their head up. But I honestly still have to say that in the middle of all these, businesses are actually not just surviving; some businesses are thriving. It only depends on what kind of market people are they are serving. So if you're the B2B business, you're still literally okay. If you're serving the HNIs or the middle class upwards, you're still like literally okay. So where the challenge that's coming in is if your business is a B2C market or is a retail market, or you're dealing with the bottom of pyramid, the offline markets and all that. That's where I think maybe core of the challenge is. It doesn't mean that doesn't, I mean, the challenge doesn't affect the other spaces or the middle class or the upper class, but I think that the challenge is more evident in terms of sales to business, sales of businesses rather, at the bottom of the pyramid level. So, but overall, I think that it's something that is maybe understandable, right? If there are challenges, you have to just weather it. According to Stripe Masiyiwa, he always says something that entrepreneurs don't fight the condition, we fight in the condition, right? So, and I think that's what many businesses are doing right now, just fighting in the condition. So,
But would you say if sales is so important, right? Because other people will argue that it's easy for you to talk about these things because you're a sales expert. Not all entrepreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs, including myself, and don't have the sales acumen that you do. So where would they start? Because the moment they hit B2B sales cycles is really, really long, right? Not
yeah.
all business have that time or the runway to actually go chase B2B because it's just too long. So where do people start in this economy?
So, this is an interesting conversation actually because we started a course at Salesplat. We launched a course at Salesplat called Founder-led Sales. And the reason we launched the course called Founder-led Sales is because we needed to start teaching founders that whether they have the sales acumen or not, they have to own the sales process of the organization. You and I know that sometime 2016, 2017, maybe 2018, we have a lot of investors investing in Nigeria, and they just invest in normal traction, number of customers, number of downloads, and so on, right? Where you can just say, we have 2 million downloads, we have 150,000 downloads. And it really didn't matter whether you are breaking even yet, whether you are making profit yet, or whether you're having good revenue yet. They just invest in that growth potential. But this is 2024, 6 years down the line after the whole buzz and everything, investors are now taking a look at, what, we want to see the numbers. We want to see what exactly is the conversion. If you're spending $1 million on marketing, or you're spending $500,000 on brand awareness, what is the conversion to revenue? How many people are buying exactly? How many people are using this? What is the daily average user? What's the MAU and all that? And those numbers, whether the DAU or the MAU, they're all tied to sales. So sales is one of the most critical roles in any company right now because money is no longer cheap. Investment is no longer cheap. So if I want to get 500K investment of $1 million, or even as much as $20 million investment, the numbers, the bottom and the top line has to make good sense. So sales is very important. And one of the things that people now realize when they come to that program, founder-led sales, is it is not even just about you going to sell by yourself. It's actually a question of understanding the whole process and developing the system that can allow for sales to happen, whether it is you going to sell by yourself or whether it is somebody else going to do the selling. So many times companies don't even make their revenue goals, they don't hit their target, not because they don't have a good product, but because the system they are put in place, the structure they are put in place does not actually allow them to follow up on what exactly is needed to be followed up on. So, and these are the things that actually we encourage founders to come and learn. Learn about sales from the whole point of, whether it's B2B or B2C or B2G or whatever model, whether it's FMCG, retail to distribution or whatever. You should actually understand what exactly is sales. You should understand how do I even hire the best sales team? How should I hire them? How should I know the kind of person to put in my customer success, who to put in my marketing, who to put in my sales itself, who to put in my business development, who do I put on partnership? Because these different roles require different personalities and different skill sets. So it is one of the most important, but I believe that founders can learn it, whether they are natural, whether they are introverts or extroverts. In fact, one thing we do for founders is to help them determine their sales personality. So we have a sales personality test that will take founders through, and people eventually realize that it doesn't really take a whole lot to sell. You just need to understand yourself and find yourself, doing the right thing that is suited to your personality. And sales will eventually happen, definitely. Yeah.
Mm. So Guys, there's one thing that you've mentioned, which I found really, really interesting, is the concept of founders-led sales.
Yep.
Um, but naturally, some investors will tell you that the best founders, especially in the tech business, the best founders are the founders that have the technical skill set, right, to build a fundamentally strong product. And then the whole idea of product market fit,
Yep.
building product that the market wants. How easy is selling a tech product?
Well, there is something that we actually need to
I mean,
realize.
let me just qualify that question. Let me just qualify that question. Remember, we are dealing
Okay,
with
yeah,
a wherein there's a lot of infrastructural issues. A lot of
okay.
people still learning about the full use and the full value of tech. A lot of
Hmm.
people was using tech because we've seen some of the some of the ways of some fintech have tried to acquire customer by giving people money to just use the platform, and even that is not sustainable, right? So that's the context, and I want you to think about that context, right? Because selling a product that you ship into Nigeria in a container, people go there and little bit different than when you really want to sell a SaaS product or
Yeah.
other type of tech enable or tech consumer product. So
Upper
how
tech.
easy, yeah, how easy is it to sell in tech these days?
So ease or difficulty is relative, and I tell people sales is easy, but it depends on who is doing the sales. And I think when companies actually figure out that there are different models that they can incorporate into their sales system, it becomes easy, right? So I was teaching a group of founders sometime last week, and I told them, I said, I used to have a co-founder in one of my businesses that wanted to sell tech product but does not believe in marketing. He believes just go and do it. Of course, I got numbers. I got hundreds of thousands of users, you know. But the truth is, we could have gotten better results if we did some marketing and brand visibility, right? So, the principles of sales are not so far from each other. If you want to sell FMCG today, you first of all start with maybe your distribution network offline. And when you see that distribution network makes good sense, then you go to do a very large brand awareness, maybe using your OOH, object oriented, advertising and all that. You do your billboards and everything. What are you doing? You are making your billboards, right, to actually direct people to the product so they can go to distribution centers to get it. The same thing happens in tech sales, right? If I am doing B2B, for example, the first thing I need to do is to ensure that I have a very solid brand awareness. But it doesn't have to be the kind of brand awareness that B2C does, rather. I am rather maybe being in communities where founders are present or where the kind of people that I want to sell to are present. And that community, I'm talking about our products. I'm engaging with people. So community helps him to have a soft landing. I mean, there was a young man that shared recently that he got from $0 to $60,000 in 3 months just selling in communities, right? I have done that. I mean, I was telling the people I was teaching last week that I've done about 20 million naira worth of sales in a community without spending on marketing, and I only spent 200,000 to join that community, but I've sold about 20 million worth of sales in that community, right? So it just depends on people understanding where to go, to sell in the first place. If you want to sell FMCG, I do OOH advertisements and I send people to my distribution network. If I want to sell tech products, SaaS products, or whatever, I need to be where the decision makers are having their conversations, and I need to join them so that there's a know, like, and trust model KLT that's activated for us. And if you can do that, everybody gets to win. You can do community, you can do online platform sales, but there is something that's very important. The best tech companies in the world, the ones in the US and the UK, they have done something interesting. They have divided their sales into 2 or 3 parts, where they have the lead generators separate, the account managers separate, the customer support separate. So the lead generation person focuses on generating the leads, just goes to get the prospects. So that person can have about 1,800, 2,000 prospects is following. The moment he gets that person, or he or she gets that person, it transfers it to the account manager that closes the deal and ensures that the product is supplied. So I can face lead generation, this person can face closing the deal, and then this person can face customer success. But we have not yet gotten to that level in Africa where we are doing that 3 tiers kind of sales operation, because we still want somebody to be the one to generate the leads, close the deal, and then do customer support. But I think that's kind of work if we can get the system right.
But sales is expensive, and sales is expensive. So let's go back to the starting point before it became this sales guru. Let's go back to the starting point. You failed a lot of times. At one point in time, you failed so much that even starting over again, you think you already. At what point did failure become a definition for you to keep going?
That's an interesting question. I
want you to think about the moment. I want us to go back into that moment, right? And you are a buzzing entrepreneur. Everybody think they are going to become a millionaire, and then you fail.
Yeah. So I think I've had different kinds of failures, and it's very good to identify how I failed in each of them. The first two businesses were because I wasn't so experienced yet, right? My experience was still very low, and I didn't understand how to start. But the biggest failure I've had should be 2019, 2020. This time around, I'm experienced. I know what exactly needs to build a business. I still launched into the market and failed. But the challenge there was not just the COVID thing. It was also the fact that we were trying to change people's habits with the product. So it was a health product. And I'm trying to get people to do things in a different way. And I don't have the kind of marketing budget to educate people enough to the point whereby they can adopt what I'm trying to sell. And I didn't raise investment money.
The reason why I'm smiling because I've learned that it's almost impossible to try to change the typical mindset of an African customer. Like maybe they will get into it for the hype, but then that continuous return use is a whole different thing. But let me let you continue.
Yeah. So, I mean, what you're saying is right. So I have known that in theory before, but I got to realize it in practical terms in 2019, 2020, because we were telling everybody, oh, this is good for your health. This is amazing for your health. And they were like, oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. It was really great. I learned that in practical terms, and I since then honestly decided that I ain't gonna do a business where I'm going to have to spend a lot of money on education to convert people, except if I have a lot of venture capital, to support it and all that. The second error that I think also happened there was the fact that in that particular line of business, I was more focused on the technology than the service in itself. So I was focusing on building the health app and everything and so on, to the extent that we missed out on the critical things that should make people actually adopt it. In fact, let me say this: we could have made our first maybe $500,000 in revenue without the tech. This in retrospect, right? We could have even done a very good service and a very good solution without having to use the app at all. But I focused on that, and so I learned a lot of things in that journey that in retrospect I just want to tell myself, when I'm going to review this solution, I know exactly what not to do.
Do you think you're going to build it again? Because here's the thing, right? This is very personal for me. It's very personal, and the reason why it's very personal is because sometimes you genuinely know, in your heart that what you're trying to get to people will actually help people, right? So how frustrating did it feel at that moment? Forget about everything that you know. How frustrating did it feel at that moment that People,
So,
people is like they know that this is good for their health, but nobody's buying. How did it feel?
yeah. So really, even though I've been a master of in quote failures, like I called myself, and I used to say that I wear failure as a medal, and all that. But that period was crazy because I I was leading a team of about close to 40 people at the time for that particular product. About 20 something were supposed to be on salary, and about 20 something others were like volunteer stroke interns and all that. And the implication of this is I have to keep the lights on, right? And I have to still face the failing product. It was really frustrating. I mean, the day that I told my team that we're shutting down this group, we had a WhatsApp group where everybody is. I mean, for me to even announce it that say we are pausing this product for now was a very difficult one to do because you have given people hopes for 3 years because I drove it hard for 2.5 to 3 years, real time, For you to not tell people that guys it's like, is this you? Is it
How was the night? How was the night before the announcement?
it was, I mean, the only one thing that I think did not make it hard, was the fact that people know this about me, that I really don't give up on things. So I told them, don't worry, we're still going to reapproach building this. When it's time to rebuilding, we're going to call on you back again. You've been an amazing team and all that. And then I decided to give support to what they want to do. But really, till today, when I see what we did and the kind of work we didn't close the social media page. Everything's still live till today. So you can imagine. When I see those, I was like, wow, this product.
Are you refusing? Are you refusing to close the social media pages because it represents a moment in your life that you would want to go back to?
Sorry, I can't hear you a bit. I think you fell a little bit.
Sorry, I was asking. I said, are the social media pages still up because it represents a moment in your life that you hope you could have got?
Yes. Yes, they are still on. I decided not to close them. They're still on. I still see them once in a while. I mean, I still look at the pages and all that. But I think it also keeps me to the fact that I'm still gonna go back to it. It was deliberate. I'm still gonna go back to it.
So you see when I meet people like myself who talk boldly
Yeah,
about their failures and things like that, I know that for me, right, that first failure almost like break me, like it almost break me. But then there is another type of failure that you have where you
yeah,
think that you have experience, and then you
yeah,
still and then you still fail, and then you're wondering, but
yeah.
yes, now let's go back to those other moments. So after you failed in that business, what came after?
Okay, so the interesting part of my life is that I almost really don't have just one business at a time. Because I grew up being a multiple business person right from
Mm.
2007, 2008. I've always built either two arms of one business or two different businesses at a time. So the failure for that came up around the same time that the fintech, was actually like practically on. So I literally just diverted all the energy of that one and put it on the fintech. And of course, it wasn't like maybe the fintech was not getting enough of me before, right? But I literally put all the frustration and everything and pushed it on the fintech. So I did massive expansion in the fintech. I took the fintech to about 12 to 16 states thereabout, because I took 16 states on campuses. I did 12 states physically and all that. So I put all the energy into that. Then the other part of that is I also literally started putting things down practically on what not to do, when you have a startup. In fact, it's one of the things that make me teach today how to build a startup from scratch and how not to fail in tech, or how to build a sustainable startup, because I took time to really understand how we failed, how it happened, from the technical side and all that. So after that event, after that failure, enough of the time was also, used to really reflect on that. But a good number of the volume went into the fintech, and yes, we got good wins.
Do you think maybe one of the reasons why you failed is because you had two businesses going at the same time? And also maybe one of the reasons why it was easier for you is because you have options when the other
Yeah.
40 you're leading did not have options, but you have options. Do you think that was a factor?
Yeah, I think it does matter. I think it was Victor Asemota said something recently on his tweets. Of course, some of us agree, some people don't agree. He mentioned, I said, open multiple businesses or express multiple of the ideas. Focus on the one that can bring revenue, right? To now fuel the one that can fuel your passion. So some of us, we have business of passion, and some of us will have business of revenue. So right now, I have business of revenue. I have that of passion that I know that bring money. For example, I have an online platform where I want people to come and invest in small startups. I've been building from 2020. We've done all the platform, but it has not made a single dime. But I keep putting money into it. I keep investing in it, but I know that this one is not something that's going to bring money. If I remember, a friend of mine said I should close it, that it's not good on Excel sheets. I said, yes, I know it's a social stuff. So I think it always helps if you have maybe something of passion separate. But again, not everybody has the capacity to diversify themselves in 2 or 3 things at the same time. So I just say, know yourself, know yourself. If you're the person that focuses on one thing, focus on it. If it fails, it fails. You move on to something else, But if you're the person that has opportunity of doing something else, maybe in terms of passion or another business entirely, or maybe you're the kind of people that have the group of companies mindset, you want to build a group. You want to, this is on sales. You can do this in education, You can always have arms of your business so that if one doesn't work, one works. So they can be within the same company, right? And you have 2 or 3 different arms within the same brand. So that helps you not that. So if a product fails, it should not be the end of the company. Another product should be able to, pick up the company.
Does that not open the door? Because we're talking about the African context here, right? With all of the challenges happening, does that not open the door for mediocrity? Because most of the founders today in the continent are not repeat founders. You and I know that. These are young people who for the first time are venturing into entrepreneurship. And if we are going now with that idea that you can have 50 business at the same time, do you think don't you think that in itself opened the door to mediocrity?
So the interesting part is I think we have different school of thoughts now around startups and how our businesses should build. I personally I don't believe in a one product business. As a person, I don't believe in one product business. I believe that business should be able to have multiple streams of revenue generation, right? If you are building a SaaS, can you have a service side of the SaaS itself, right? If you're building, let's say, a service product, can you have the SaaS side of it? So that is my belief. But even though, some businesses, an example would be Calendly, for example. It doesn't maybe have any other thing, just the product in itself. And it succeeded, right? But you can also take a look at other businesses, the Apple and all that. They have different elements, of them. So I will only say that I think people should subscribe to the school of thought that works for them and works around their personality. But investors invest in multiple product brands, right? And investors still invest in one product brand. But this is Africa. And if you're talking about Africa, you need to realize that number one, we don't have a lot of money coming from external investment. We still take less than 5% of the total investment globally. So if you're just doing one product and it's not, giving you all the revenue you need, see if there's a complementary product that's a better market they can have alongside, right? The worst that can happen is you don't dedicate all your team to that, just do about 2 or 3 man team to flow that out. And a number of bigger companies actually do that, right? Whereby they observe that there's a market here, they just dedicate a 3-man team to go and focus on that for like 1 year. And if it looks well, they bring in investment to support it. So there's nothing that says you cannot have a sub-innovation within your brand to ensure that if something happens here, even if it's not something else happening, it can just be another opportunity you want to capture. I may use maybe a Utiva, for example, as an example. Utiva started as maybe a normal EdTech platform, but now Utiva has talent sourcing and talent hiring arm of its brand. They now have enterprise sales part of it where companies are depending on them to get talent. It looks like a different business. This education, this HR, but in the real sense, they are connected together, and that can be a way for the company to make more money. In fact, from what I'm hearing, they are making more money from the talent sourcing and enterprise side than even the education side that they started with. So it just depends on the founder and the vision generally. Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you. I know a bit about Utiva. I don't know about the internal workings of it. And one of the things that I've also learned is that when it comes to sales, particularly in the continent, or when it comes to different product lines, right? Today, one of the things that you have been an advocate for, and I'm just going to put it out there so people will crucify you, is the fact that you've been an advocate for people not taking money. Rather, for a start, people just looking, if it's possible, just do grants.
Yeah.
Then there's a lot of shadow being cast on grantpreneurs because they feel
I
like
agree.
at scale, a lot of the entrepreneurs receiving grants in the continent are not accountable for this money, and then they end up going misuse these funds.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
So you're right. I've been an advocate for people not necessarily taking VC fund at the beginning. Um, and I have my reasons for that. I believe that businesses need to figure out their product and their market. You don't throw money at market to get adoption. Or, I mean, let me put it this way. You can throw money at the market to get adoption, but you may not be able to throw money to get retention, right? And the beauty of business is in retention, not in just the adoption. So many startups that fail, you hear that this company failed after $35 million. This one failed after $2 million. The truth is, they threw money at marketing, they threw money at adoption. So when you are bootstrapping at the beginning or you are using grants, you are much more sensitive because you have to pay your staff salary, and they have to come from revenue, not just from some wrong way that is coming. So I'm a proponent of the fact that you can bootstrap or maybe use grants for first 1 or 2 years. And by then you already know what works and what doesn't work and what should you put much more money behind. And I think that really works. You know, a young lady won $250,000 grants just about last week. You know, she's on my timeline. But she has been on that business for like 3 years plus, and she already understands what works. You know, I am so much confident that she gets $2 million or $3 million. It is very sure that she will succeed, not because of anything, but she has understood the market with little, you know. And if you can actually maximize little in your business, you can always maximize the much, because at the end of the day, you already know the principle. So I'm a proponent of getting grants or maybe getting some minimal money to start with, preferably just bootstrap and ensure that you're able to break even. You're able to even know what volume of staff do you need per time, per unit. That really helps you not to overstaff yourself. I mean, there's a certain company right now that has closed up, over $30 million raised. But one of the critical challenges they had, where there was a point they were hiring people that normal startups should not pay them more than 500,000 naira, but they were paying their people like 1.5 million. Like, they literally, in fact, increased the what's it called, the level of pricing for the whole industry, that people wanted everybody to pay them like that. And the truth is, the revenue the company was generating would not match the salary they were paying because there was a runway from some VC. So at the end of the day, they failed about $30 million. So my thinking is, you know, start at the level you can, raise some little money, whether from grants or angel round, do it for like 2 years, thereabout. And then you can now go and then say you want to raise VC fund. Of course, people can do it the other way and raise from day one. It's okay by them, but I just believe in that other model.
Yeah, so my colleague have joined us. Esther, do you have any questions?
Esther, welcome.
No, I don't. Hi, Victor. It's really a pleasure to see you here again.
How are you doing?
Yeah, a pleasure to see you here again. I'm doing great. I'm totally excited to have you here. The conversation is very frank and very real. I believe I share the same sentiment as you, and I think that the context or the way we value founders these days is changing, right? It should change because we see founders based on how much they're able to raise. I'm in a community where I hear founders talk about how to get money, how to get money, how to get money,
Yeah.
how to get money, how to get money. And I know, having gone through several accelerators, that getting money is not the first things first. Yes, we know that money is the lifeline of your startup. There are many other things,
Exactly.
moving parts that make your startup what it is. So I'm actually enjoying the conversation, and I cannot wait to hear. Uh,
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah. So,
No, but
Victor, Victor, let me ask a question, right? You talked about grants. You've mentioned grants, and I've seen some responses that you've gotten for grants. I'm not. Um, I believe that grants, when given to the right person, can make
yeah.
a whole lot of difference. But there are a lot
Yeah.
of people who are winning grants today who are not accountable at all, right? Because grant is basically free money, right? And the systems built around grants are not built with a stringent accountability
Yeah.
mechanism to actually allow entrepreneurs to use those grants sensibly and wisely, right? And we've seen a lot of example of people winning grants and then using part of the money to go build houses or go buy a car instead of actually investing in the business. What would you say to people? What would you say to people like that? Being someone who is an advocate for grants.
Yeah. Well, I think it depends on the kind of grants people get. There are some grants that are more difficult than venture fund. There are some. I remember there was a grant we won from the UK AID plus Gates Foundation plus EFINA. It was over $100,000 in value. The first thing that happened was we had to report every month compulsorily. And if we don't do well in the first quarter, we don't get the second tranche. So they broke the grant for us into 4 tranches. So it is the result of the first quarter that determines whether you're going to get the second tranche or not. And I remember that there was a time they came all the way from UK to Lagos to different states where we're having activities to come and talk to our customers. I took them to about 3 or 4 locations, 3 local governments or so in that particular state to show them what we were doing. So it's in fact the due diligence for some grants are much more difficult than that of venture funds. So it's about how the grant organization structures it. Are there CEOs that are taking grants and using it to build houses? Yes, there are many of them. But the same way, there are many CEOs that are collecting venture funds and they're earning $10,000 a month, $15,000 a month. I'm going to build houses and buy cars. So I think bad founders will always be bad founders, right? Non-frugal founders will always be non-frugal founders. A founder that is frugal by nature, by responsibility, whether it is a grant or it's venture fund, they will always be frugal. They always do it right. So it's first of all about the personality of people and what they hold there as value. So it's not about the grant in itself. That's where people make mistakes. It is not the fact that it is a grant that makes people mismanage the money. It's the personalities of the founders that they are bringing to the table in the first place. Because grant has a lot of rules, they have a lot of, and then they have KPIs as well. They have something they want to meet. How do you say a founder that took about $300,000 and ran away? Here in this Africa, right? It's something I heard. That is not a question whether it's grant or not. It's a question of, the person just lacks integrity. So I think it's a question of the founders, not that. But grants are very amazing, and many of them are much more strict, even than venture fund. A lot of them actually. Yes.
Are they amazing because they are easy for you to get? Because I know that you're a king of grants, right? You understand
Yeah.
how to develop, how to write this grant and everything. Are
Yeah.
they amazing because it's easy for you? Because I will tell you this, right? Just I am afraid of writing any grant document. Like it's something that just like it terrifies me, right? And I've
Yeah.
written few of them have gotten successful. Well, I've gotten success, but it's something that it just terrifies me to write grants.
Yeah.
Right? So how easy is it for an entrepreneur today, especially a tech entrepreneur in the continent that is not building um, an impact-led business, right?
Okay.
To get grants.
So, of course, I have a training on how to win grants. I think I wrote a trade. I was supposed to write a book on that as well because I personally believe in it. So there are a few tenets around this. Number one, I think, is focus on the impact, sustainability, and growth potential of whatever you're trying to sell in the grant. Many people actually focus on just the impact when they're trying to apply for grants and all that. But I have been on several panels to judge grant application. In fact, I'm hosting a business grant competition this March, to June, for companies or for SMEs in those in Nigeria. And one of the major things that we're trying to look at is this thing going to make impact? But that is not enough. Is this thing going to actually give us the kind of sustainability we expect? If you're applying for a grant and you don't put the side of sustainability in check, that's going to be a major challenge. Sustainability is very, very, very important. And then the growth potential. If this thing can only work in one state and it can't work in another state, except if it is charity, I don't want to do that. But if it's a business, I want to be sure that this thing is scalable across different industries, across different roles, across different areas. So people need to realize that that factor is very important. So the impact, the sustainability, especially and the growth potential. If you can figure out those three in your grant application, you would almost always win. But there's other parts of it as well. Pitching side itself is there. Maybe the financials and all that is part of it. But overall, I think those three are like the very core pillar of a very effective grant that writing. Yeah.
So can we have you, the great Victor? Yes, I do these things when I want to ask for a big favor. The great Victor gives scholarships for people to go learn how to write grants in one of your. So the picture. Yes, that's a yes, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not even waiting for him to respond. That's a yes. So we now have. But how many scholarships will he give? Yeah. I want to take one of those scholarships. So don't count my own.
We can give a few scholarships on courtesy of the pitch room. Definitely, we can.
Yes. So
even if it's partial scholarship, we can always do that. Yeah.
I mean, let's do. I definitely want that scholarship. We could have maybe about 3 full scholarship and then 2 parts scholarship.
No problem at all.
Yes.
No problem at all.
Believe me, because I want one of those scholarships. Definitely.
Victor, thank you. That's possibly because he's the backup. He'll make you do things you didn't plan to do. So yes. Yeah. Thank you for the scholarship.
No problems. Let's do it. Maybe we'll let you know when the next course is coming out, so we can make one report.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine, Esther. So Victor, here's a question that I actually.
Yeah, Victor, can you? Okay, great. So I want to ask a question. Siri, I'd like to ask a question first.
Yeah, go on.
I'd like to ask a question first. Before you shoot. Can I shoot first?
Yeah, go on, Esther.
Yes.
Siri.
Yes.
Great. So I heard you speak about grant funding for startups. It's very interesting because I know that grant funding is usually for social entrepreneurs or people who are doing great work. So if there's grant funding for startups, is it possible that you have access to these grant funding? That's one question. One question is you have access to these grant funding. 2, the way the startups are being funded these days, how does this grant funding work for startups? Because we know that there's some grant funding that just straight up, hey, take this money, go. I don't want a stake in your business. Just take it and do what you want. Don't give us any feedback. We don't want to do. It's just to invest in you. You understand? But how does that work? I want to learn how that works. So if you have access, so I want to know if there are platforms that give funding, grant funding, solely grant funding for startups. That's the first question. The second question is, how does it work? Because I know how grant funding is for social entrepreneurs, usually for social entrepreneurs or creative professionals that are doing great work, right? And sometimes they want a stake in your business, sometimes they want something, sometimes they don't want anything. Where can we find these guys? And then how does it work?
Yeah. That's a very good
so very interesting question there. And grants are not so difficult to find. The only challenge I've seen is many founders are lazy, to look for them. So what I advise founders to do is, if you have an executive assistant, get them to sign up on some platforms on your behalf so they can inform you when the opportunities are available, right? And then grants are seasonal. So one of the things you need to realize is grants always come out around December, January, February, or around July, August, June, July, August. That's because people want to either do grants between the beginning of the year and middle of the year. So people that sign up in December, January, they get to get their grants around April, May, June. Then the next batch of grants always come out around May, June, July, for them to get awarded around November, December. So founders don't need to be looking for grants in April and all, even though some come out around that time. But the most season are around the beginning of the year and the middle of the year. That's like often 2 seasons of grants across the globe generally. So there are many platforms, for example, opportunitydesk.org, Opportunities for Africans, Fund for NGOs, for research, Terra Viva grants, for tech-related grants, ICT Works. Those are some platforms that you can find grants, a good number of them. We actually have a list of these that we often provide in the grants training that we provide. Then how does it work? I think the first important thing is, number one, I advise people this: if you're still at idea stage, get an MVP and get some traction. We have left the age where people want to fund ideas with grants. These days, people want to fund something that they can see already is working, and then they can get more. I have a friend that has gotten over $800,000 in grants for his health-related brand. Tribe Agric has won over $1 million in grants, right? The first thing is get the MVP working and then get some traction and ensure that you're able to have it as a sustainable business or a sustainable brand. I think if you can be able to get those, especially the MVP and a working business that looks like there's some traction, that's sustainable, grants are actually easier. You just need to tailor your application to what the companies or the organizations want, whether they want it to be financial inclusion. You won't go and say, I want to go and do this when you want financial inclusion, right? When we won $100 and something thousand grant, we weren't planning to do financial inclusion yet, but that was what came. So, and we developed a model from what you're already doing that fitted into financial inclusion, and voila, we won it. So it's just about understanding what do they want and fitting what you're doing into that, and you can always win it. Yeah.
Esther, thank you very much for asking.
Siri, you can go now.
No, I was saying thank you again for asking that question, because it's actually something, when I look at Victor and, his mentorship, one of the things I always see that, like, where's this guy seeing all of this money? Where are you seeing all of these grants that everybody else is not seeing? Because it's one thing to actually go for grant. It's another thing to actually find the right grant and being able to go through the process for that grant. But Victor, here's a question I have for you. And again, like I said, I've been meaning to ask you this for the longest of time. Entrepreneurship is hard. How have you managed people's expectation around you through your failures?
Sorry, I didn't get that clearly.
So entrepreneurship is hard, as we all agree. How have you managed over time people's expectation around you, especially during crisis moments?
I think the number one thing is I developed a kind of mindset where I literally appreciate failure a lot. So I designed myself to, first of all, love the failure and be shameless. That's the first thing. So I'm literally one of the most shameless person you can ever meet. Because even before you shame me with my failure, I've shamed myself with it already. Do you understand? I developed a kind of mindset that is shameless, so that number one, I know that this is something I'm doing. It can work, and it may not work, right? I mean, the first thing I used to explain to myself is, one of my mentors, Stripe Masiwa, came to launch Kwese TV in Nigeria, right? And he brought over $180 million or so, maybe relatively, could be more, could be less, to come and do that. And Kwese TV failed. And he's one of the richest men in Zimbabwe, if I'm right. So if someone as rich as that, as connected, as knowledgeable with all the money, will fail. What about me? Do you understand? So I cushion myself with that. First of all, that there are two possibilities. I am always wanting to win. I'm an optimistic person. When failure happens, no problem. So that now makes it very easy, so that I am not necessarily bothered about what people are thinking. Yeah, the expectation of everybody is that you succeed, right? But you always have it in mind that yes, you are not living for the expectation of people. I owe it to myself to run my vision and build my vision. I owe it to my team, my staff, my co-founders and all that, to not quit on them. But as much as long as I'm not maybe disappointing those two people, and I'm also not disappointing the customers, those are the three most important people to me. Any other set of people, as long as they are spectators or they are just general, consumers or all that, I'm not really bothered as such. So I owe it to myself, to my team, to my customers that yes, I am loyal to them. But
what about the African household? What about the African household? Let's go back. Let me take you back through a journey when you just graduated and then you're doing your NYS, is it NYSC or something? Let's go back to that moment, right? Where it's like you've eaten part of, I think it was part of your fees or something, to actually do business, and then you fail. Like, what was the disappointment like in the eyes of your parents, your family? How did that felt, and how were you able to manage and to get to turn on, get their support to keep going?
Okay, so I think the first thing is I already did my push on that side. But family is not as such involved in my business, right? So and our conversations are often not even around business at all. I only have one person that is on my business, across board. So there's no much disappointment there. The only thing that will happen is maybe there's no money, maybe I want to send money or something, and all of us, I just say this is the economy, and all that. But to be honest, I wouldn't say it's easy on anybody when failures happen. It's often not easy. But one thing I do realize is this: if people already know you as a go-getter, the disappointment is always little. And I think that's one of the things that's happened for me. I've been a fighter for years. I've been on the streets. I've maybe, like lived, basically faced a lot of things. So they just know that, yes, this guy's going to fight it through. So I think failure for me has really often never been so challenging, because people have known me to be a fighter. And everybody knows that every warlord at some time, they win some, they lose some, but they always get back to rise up again. And that's what it means to be an entrepreneur. You win some, you lose some, but the winning always overshadows the losses.
Have your journey become easier because now you have a better understanding of sales?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Have your journey become better? Have you become a better entrepreneur because now you're a better salesperson?
Oh, sure. I am more sales focused and sales minded than I've ever been, right? And it has also helped me to actually build better businesses and get founders to also build better businesses. I'll give an example. There's a company that I mentor right now. They're just a small startup, a small business. They did the whole of the money they did last year, revenue they did last year was 180 million naira, basically, within that range. And I took their strategy session, and then we planned the year together, and we gave them some strategy of what to do. As I speak, this is February. They already gone past their last year revenue by February already. They've done 200 million already. They've crossed it some days ago. And they did the whole of 180 last year. So it means that something that is being done right. There's another company that I mentor. They wanted to do, I think, about 400 or 500 million this year already. They already got as I speak, 4 leads, about close to 120 leads already that are going to close deal. And this is a $3,000 product, right?
Hey.
So imagine that. So
Yeah.
it's about, and maybe I should say that many founders need one-on-one coaching for sales and revenue growth, and just not be winging it, just wing it and this. So because for those people, for them to have those results, even though they come to my training, I coach them on a weekly basis and say, this is wrong, this is right, this I should have done it, this I should have done it, based on my own failures and my own experiences of winning as well. So, but yeah, every business can be better if the founders master sales processes. Very, very much. Yeah.
And especially within the continent. What is the future of sales with AI?
I will tell you this: marketing will be improved with AI. Branding will improve with AI. But sales will still not be replaced by AI. But sales can be optimized with AI. Talk about customization of messages, talk about generation of prospects, talk about customer persona development in a much better way. But there'll still be a need for one-on-one conversation. So B2C sales will improve a lot, will be impacted a lot by AI, because you can do marketing and do your funnel and everybody just opt in. People buy by emotions on B2C. But on B2B, you still have to do your presentation. You still have to talk. You still have to explain the deck. So AI will not replace B2B sales, but it will likely improve on it. So it will likely help people get better results in terms of maybe content creation, your deck presentation, your preparation for the pitch itself, because we now have AI that can prepare people for sales presentation and all that. But overall, I think B2B sales will still require person-to-person sales. And this is Africa. Before we get to replace the human side of everything, it will still be a long time. For some time. So, but B2C generally will be highly impacted with AI a lot. But B2B will have maybe about 20-30% improvement, or let's say 50% max on the sales side of B2B. We still have that person-to-person interaction. Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've been having a wonderful conversation with the CEO of Salespat, Mr. Victor. So, just to give you context again, we've gone through like the life of Victor as a salesperson, but also explore some of his failures and things like that. But that's not the context I want to give you. Victor personally mentors thousands of people on Facebook, and I'm happy to raise my hands that I'm one of those people that he mentors, because I don't only learn from everything he posts, I also intentionally have made it a mandate to actually learn from the journey that he embarks on himself, because he's not one of those guys that go and post on social media and say, oh, 20 things that you can do to become better. No, you actually sees the impact on his business, and he's an open book. When he fails, he talks about it. When he succeeds, he talks about it. And it's just remarkable to have you here join us today.
Same here.
So much
Same
for being but stick around. As always, this is the Pitch Room Africa. We love to have tough conversations, and we love to bring people like Victor all day in. And this conversation can go on and on and on and on and on. But Esther will blame me if we keep it going on and on and on and on. Esther, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling very excited.
Yeah.
I can't wait for this conversation to end so I could give him a call, because it's been over 2 years. We haven't kind of connected in a long while. So I'm looking forward to having a conversation outside this conversation with Victor. And I'm very excited about this opportunity as well. Thanks to Pitch Africa.
Let me be the one to call him first. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been your host, and I've been joined by my co-host, Esther Richards.
Hey guys.